And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Today's satellite imagery showing moisture and rain streaming from west to east here right across the interior. A break there on the north slope today with some clear skies up through there. Then some more clouds with a weak band coming onto the Arctic coast. And out to the west here, moisture coming northward and turning into the interior here. But you can see starting to thin out and become a narrower band there off to the southwest. And the next system here, nudging some clouds and maybe a little bit of rain up to the western Alaska Peninsula, Unalaska Island area, but most of the moisture staying to the south here as that tracks off to the east. And then that weakening low over the southern panhandle there with a few scattered showers here earlier today, and that taking off to the southeast. And this area here, more clearing out here, that's going to just follow that right on in. And for the flying weather Monday morning, VFR in the forecast for the southeast coast, North Gulf Coast, southern Alaska here. Some marginal VFR, possibly getting a little east of the western Alaska range, but basically right along the mountains and to the north and west, with the IFR farther to the north, upper Yukon Valley, Koyukuk Valley areas, up to the southern slopes of the Brooks Range. VFR for the north slope holds, and not too bad for the Arctic coast. A lot of IFR here, still sliding with that westerly flow at the surface and aloft, pulling IFR into the western interior there, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, down across St. Lawrence Island, Nunivak Island, and a break here coming in toward the Pribilofs. But the Aleutians, IFR tonight, IFR staying mostly south of that system down here, staying mostly south of the Alaska Peninsula. And then for tomorrow, some of that may slide up along the southeast side of Kodiak Island. Bering Sea, expect IFR out there, same thing for the Aleutians. And right up to the coastline now, not extending as far inland as bulk of the moisture moves on off, but still a lot of marginal VFR here over the interior. Southern Alaska, VFR, western and central North Slope, and the western Arctic coast, VFR. VFR right on down the panhandle there, some marginal VFR along the central coastline. And then for Tuesday morning, we've got IFR covering much of the Gulf of Alaska, but staying for the most part off the coast with a marginal VFR too, just barely grazing the coastline. East side of Kodiak, IFR, and southern Alaska looking good again. A couple of VFR days coming up with some sunshine here. Even up across the Alaska Range and back out toward the, to the Kuskokwim Mountains, west of the mountains there, becoming IFR, again holding over the Bering Sea. So a little bit of IFR possible early on there, northern Koyukuk Valley. North Slope, Arctic coast, looking pretty good. And moving on to Tuesday afternoon, not much change out here to the west. Expect IFR anywhere over the Aleutians and the Bering Sea, right on up to the Bering Strait and into the Seward Peninsula there, south side. Marginal VFR still coming in, but not to the extent it has been, but lower conditions up here over the northwest and northern interior. But the North Slope, not too bad. Increasing marginal VFR, though, on the west side. IFR, eastern Kodiak Island, across the Gulf, and for the most part staying along the coast of the Panhandle, actually marginal VFR along the coast of the IFR, off the coast. And for passes, Anaktuvik and Adigan, both passes looking rather marginal tomorrow for the day on Monday. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, rainy, same forecast, VFR, windy, marginal VFR at times, especially on the northern entrance, otherwise occasionally VFR, especially south side. And Isabel, though, VFR from Mentasta, Tanita looking good, Portage, same forecast, VFR, either approach. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet here, western North Gulf Coast, and then sloping up to about 10,000 feet here across the eastern Aleutians, right up along the coastline into the northern Panhandle area, and icing. Most of the moisture now will be moving through by tomorrow, so still a chance of some icing here. Light rime icing possible there, Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, and up here over the eastern Arctic coast back into the eastern Brooks Range area. And then some heavier moisture out here, but staying really out over the Bering Sea, north of the Aleutians, west of the Pribilofs, southwest of St. Lawrence Island. Moving on to the jet stream, high pressure building here over the southern and southeast Bering Sea with westerly flow north of that high, west-northwest flow, kind of cool here coming into the interior at about 70 to 75 knots. This system staying down to the south, tracking east, but may nudge some moisture up to Kodiak Island. Offshore flow now over the southern panhandle of that low, slowly tracking southeastward there, now south of the Queen Charlottes. And for 9,000 feet, light variable winds here for the panhandle, southern Alaska, westerlies 20 to 35 knots in the interior, central and northern interior. Light over the light over the Bering Sea and all the Aleutians, especially the Aleutians, light winds. And at 3,000 feet here, 40 knots out of the southwest with a system back here farther to the west, coming up and over this ridge down here. So westerlies, this is a narrow band of some west-southwest winds at about 15 to 25 knots here, lighter to the north, light to the south, light for the panhandle. Next system started trying to kick the winds up a little bit there for the western Arctic coast. Turbulence-wise, occasional turbulence, moderate here, especially early tomorrow, about 7,000 feet and down to the surface here, west-central interior, smooth to the south, and nothing of any significance to the north or the panhandle or out over the Bering Sea.